My name's Connor. I'm a personal trainer based in Luton. I'm 27 years old. Over the last year, I've been open about the fact that I've been suffering with depression. My granddad unfortunately passed away at the around early March time at the start of the pandemic period. And this was the first time that I wasn't able to sort of go back into my normal working habits and working environment when I've suffered with loss before. So for me, it meant that I was having to think a lot more about what I was listening to in my head, the conversations I was having with myself. And I knew something wasn't right. And over the period of about 3 to 4 months, it got to a point where I was negatively affecting people around me, not in the sense of I was doing anything harmful, but it was more like I wasn't being the positive reinforcement that I normally am, which is what my job's like. And it was great that fortunately we've got a great healthcare end-of-life care provider called Keach Cottage in Luton. So they supported my family when my nan passed away 2 years ago, and were offering us grievance counselling. So I thought it was about time. I wanted to ask myself some serious questions about how I was dealing with things, whether I was holding on to things that I wasn't aware of. And it was really interesting from obviously someone that's a professional, picking up things that, yes, I've got kind of an understanding of because I deal with people's mental health day to day, in terms of how clients eat, train, just do their normal day-to-day habits. So for me to be on the other end of that, I think was a really enlightening period of like 12 weeks where I was doing the counselling. I found myself at times then having a couple of days where my brain drifted off, felt mentally exhausted, but I knew after about 10 weeks, with still a few weeks to go, that I was really in a good place in terms of being able to not be more honest about how I was feeling about everything, from just being accepting that you're not going to be perfect all the time. You're not going to be on top form every day, that you're not always going to wake up at your first alarm and be proactive. You're not going to be feeling 100% throughout the day. You're going to have at times days that stress you out more, wear you out more. And quite often, I would just try and brush it off with a workout or brush it off with a walk. And this time around, none of that was kind of working. And I got myself into a point where I then got so demotivated about that side of things that I stopped doing everything that I'm normally doing. Didn't want to train. There was a period, obviously, even though we were in a lockdown period and were allowed to leave the house for walks and to go to the shops, I think I pretty much stayed in the house. There was one period for about 2.5 weeks because I didn't want to leave the comfort and security of where I was, because I didn't feel myself. I didn't want to feel judged, even just by knowing that I was feeling mentally different. I knew I sort of felt physically different, and I went through some where I said to my girlfriend, deep, dark days where not that I wasn't feeling wanting to kill myself or anything like that, but more just I was so low about myself and my own confidence that I just didn't want to crack on and do anything whatsoever, other than when I then had my clients, it was almost doing a performance in order to just make sure that I was showing my face and making sure I was at least being positive reinforcement for them. So I was almost hiding away my thoughts, my feelings for maybe a couple of hours a day when my clients would see me, and then switch it back off again. So it was almost like I was doing a acting performance for periods of the day, and it just got into a vicious period like that for about 2 to 3 months. And I think obviously the lockdown affected that as well. Like I know it would, so many people whose working habits, social habits, seeing their friends and family would have dramatically made a difference to that. But yeah, I think for me, it was that initial, like, I finally got to a point where I knew I was suffering, had a bit of a breakdown, tears with my girlfriend, and said, okay, I need to talk. I felt uncomfortable talking to people like my immediate family. You want to be a positive reinforcement to the people around you. And, you know, they want you to be the best possible version of yourself. And sometimes that actually has to be admitting that you're not mentally right at that point in time. They're already aware of it anyway, but they just want to be knowing that you're now more aware of it yourself. So actually being aware of what your mental state is, I think, is such an important thing, because the people around you that care about you most will know that. But it's not ever nice to say to them, I'm not feeling well. And not feeling well as in, you know, I'm not feeling right about my thoughts, how I'm feeling about myself, how I'm feeling about wider society. I think it can be a really, really difficult thing to approach. I felt more comfortable doing it to strangers in terms of my clients. I felt more comfortable doing it to my friends that are away, because, you know, you don't see them for periods of time, so they want to know what's going on. You kind of then admit, yeah, I've been suffering with depression. And people obviously have different variations and varieties of it and how they cope with it. But for me, I think it was just glad to just finally admit that I haven't been right, maybe, and I was holding it in for so long. And it's that thing like a snowball effect, where it's a, you know, at the top of the hill, it's quite small, but over time it gets bigger and bigger to the point that it's an avalanche. I think it just got to myself. So it was a good feeling after letting them know, yeah, not being myself for a period of time.